welcome to this episode of Money Means Business. I'm Mona Musalhi, sitting here on behalf of Nermeen Nazim. Today we are going to make a kind of recap to the economic developments that occurred during the year 2016, including, of course, the inauguration of many of the mega projects and other projects that have been inaugurated by President Sisi. We'll also be tackling many measures that have been taken by the governments in order to put the economy on track. Also, we will be tackling how the economy of Egypt has been ongoing in the or throughout 2016. Of course, Egypt aims for 5% growth rate to try to as much decrease the budget deficit and other requirements that are really important for putting our economy on track. Plus, of course, many other sectors that have been improving in a slight way, but it is really improving. Of course, we're speaking here about sectors as tourism, for an instant. The most important of which are how Egypt is going on. Is it on track for its sustainable development vision and its, of course, developmental projects and plans? This is what we are going to discuss throughout our episode tonight. Before we start with our discussion, let me first welcome our guest, Mr. Abbas Az-Zughari, economic expert. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Back to our discussion, and President Fattah al-Sisi inaugurated new army special units in the Southern Fleet in Safaga City in the Red Sea Governorate. That was on Thursday. Sisi also inaugurated the renovation and construction work at Safaga Maritime Port and the Golden Triangle mining development projects carried out at the cost of more than £500 million. Let's watch the report and we'll come back for discussion.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inaugurated the new army special units in the Southern Fleet of Safaga City in the Red Sea Governorate. Al-Sisi also inaugurated the renovation and construction work at Safaga Maritime Port and the Golden Triangle mining development project carried out at a cost of over 500 million Egyptian pounds. Speaking during the inauguration, President al-Sisi called for increasing the number of crews serving at the port at peak times to cope with the increasing number of passengers. For his part, the commander of the naval forces, General Ahmed Khalid Hassan Saeed, said Egypt became the first country in the Middle East to have 2 helicopter carriers with such high technological capabilities. The celebration was attended by Prime Minister Sharif Ismail, the Minister of Defense, General Sidqi Subhi, as well as a number of high-ranking officials. Addressing the gathering, the Minister of Transportation, Galal Saeed, reviewed the new and underway renovation as well as the modernization process at Egyptian ports. The inauguration comes within the framework of an integral part of the plan that aims at serving the Golden Triangle's development project area while transforming the Safaga port into an international logistical hub. The new facilities include administrating and operating the maritime passenger station and its trade center, which was built on 12,000 square meter areas and is to accommodate 1.5 million passengers. A truck station was also established in the area of 100,000 meters squared, with 7 administrative buildings and 500-meter bridge linking the station and the port. President Sisi inspected the helicopter carrier Mistral Gamal Abdel Nasser and raised Egypt's flag on board. The armed forces now has 2 marine fleets aimed to protect the nation's sea borders, which are Mistral, Gamal Abdel Nasser, and Anwar al-Sadat. Safaga is one of the most important ports as it is so close to the new development area of the Upper Egypt and is easily connected to Saudi Arabia's Dab'a and Jeddah ports.
Right, welcome back. And to shed light on the inauguration of the Safaga or the renovation work at the Safaga port, we have with us over the phone Mr. Shireen Al-Nagar, International Shipping Consultant. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you.
And would you please shed light on the Safaga or the new works at the Safaga Maritime Port and how it can really serve the Golden Triangle developmental projects?
Well, Safaga Port, as a port that links mainly with the Saudi Arabian port of Dibba, is more instrumental when it comes to passengers and movement of freight trucks between Saudi Arabia and Egypt. And of course, it is the new development of the passenger terminal is a positive thing because it will help a lot in handling the passengers between the two ports. And it will, you have something like 2 million passengers every year. We have Nueva and Aqaba, that's one sector, but that goes to the northern Gulf, the upper Gulf part. But the bigger traffic is landing between Safaga and Dibba. So as a passenger terminal and a passenger service port, yes, this is definitely very positive, and it was a very badly needed development, which we thank the government for implementing. However, if we come to the Golden Triangle and talk about Golden Triangle, no, I'm afraid I'm slightly in disagreement there. The Golden Triangle is actually linked by 3 ports, and we are ignoring the most important of the 3. Safaga, yes, it is capable of handling phosphate rock, and it's capable of handling minerals because it is already handling bauxite, but you don't need to have bauxite and also phosphate in the same port close to the passenger terminals, which is not really a very environmentally friendly operation. The most qualified port for such a service to handle proper phosphate rock and proper fertilizer goods will be the port of Hamraouen. Hamraouen is a dedicated export facility for mainly phosphate. And of course, if the real development turns up, which is a dream as an Egyptian I personally have, is to develop a phosphoric acid production plant in the Hamraouen area. Now we are talking here about a development of a big facility that is capable of handling a lot of phosphoric acid that is in high demand between in India, in Pakistan, and in China. So I would see that the more qualified port for becoming a hub for the phosphate and the bulk in that particular area is at Hamraouen, especially that it is still, there's a lot of space around the port, unlike Safaga, which is becoming pretty heavily congested by people and by housing all around it.
Maybe it would be the first stage towards renovating other ports. If we want to speak about Safaga ports from another aspect, which is being or turning it into an international logistic hub, the possibility of that, and what do we really need to make Safaga and other ports, important ports in Egypt, international logistic hubs?
Well, let me first define the word logistics, because it is being very widely used and in I would say in a more of an elastic manner. Logistics is a service industry that is only available if there is an industry to go with it. I mean, if you look at a place like Bremerhaven, for example, it is an automobile logistics hub where they are handling cars, completely assembled cars, or they're handling car parts and things like that. Then they have the automobile logistics hub. So we have to define that logistics is a service that will provide an industry with a service, supply chain management, all that stuff. Now, Safaga is qualified to handle a thing like this, but you have to be also more understanding to the fact that Safaga is only very much dependent on the trade with Saudi Arabia and maybe part of the Gulf. So as an international recognized hub, no, I don't think Safaga will be a real hub in the sense of an international status. What we could really be the real hub and a big international status is the famous Shalatin Halayb triangle, and I am actually recommending very much that the Halayb Shalatin triangle would become a new Hong Kong of the West, the Hong Kong of Egypt. This area is completely virgin. It has not been touched by anybody. It has not been mismanaged in any way. It has a lot of natural ports. It has massive natural resources. And on top of all this, you even have an area of 20,000 square kilometers, which is as big as Hong Kong, Singapore, and other hubs put together. Now, if a cooperation between the Egyptian government, the Chinese government, which actually has been en route, and I think I must say here that we have a very smart president. I didn't know that he had such vision when it comes to maritime transport, because he was the first man to go and sign a protocol with the Chinese on the Silk Route on one side and sign a protocol with the Greeks on the other side. So he is trying to link the rail link that has actually started taking off between England and China with Egypt, and this is definitely a very smart move. And it can, by linking that with Halayb, we can create a massive hub here, which can be the fourth hub in the world as an economic hub. That is what I would call a logistics hub, an economic hub, and a big commercial hub worldwide that will give access to everybody in China, India, and Europe into Africa. Yes. Imagine the kind of income that will bring into our country.
Yes, I guess, yes, logistic hubs are really made to serve industrial areas, and I guess Safaga, of course, and other recommendations, as you just respectively said, would be international logistic hub to serve. For instance, Safaga is to serve the Golden Triangle developmental projects. Let's wait and see how things will turn to. But yes, Mr. Shireen Anagar, International Shipping Consultant, we thank you very much for being with us. Back to you, Mr. Zoheri. And we were speaking about the latest mega projects that have been inaugurated by President Sisi, the latest of which was this Safaga, or the renovation works that has been inaugurated by President Sisi in the Safaga port and this Golden Triangle developmental projects. The developmental projects that Egypt has been carrying on with, how far do you think they can really serve our economy at its particular situation right now?
Well, before I start to answer the question, I would like to wish all the Egyptian Christian Merry Christmas, and I wish them a very happy and a peaceful year. If we get back to our discussion about the projects, I really admire the fact that in the last years that has been projects renewed and built and opened that has never taken place in 30 years. If I compare this between the time that President Sisi started and now, I see that each week of each 2 weeks there is a new project coming. And I have been abroad for many years, and I was missing what's going on in Egypt, but I had also a lot of information about that everything was as classic, as normal, so nothing new. But now I start to come often, and I saw the roads, I saw the bridges, I saw the factories which has been open, I saw all the possibility which has been done to open the eyes for the outside investors to come to Egypt and to invest the money. And that is which is very important for Egypt. You cannot build the economy internal. You have also to go external. And if you would like to get the attraction of external, you have to arrange your country well and safe I don't mean safe that you can walk in the street. Of course, we have a safe country. We walk in the street and we go everywhere without any problems. That's
Prepare
okay.
the ground to attract more
But we have to,
investments.
I have to, as a foreigner, I have to feel safe in the country where I'm going to invest my money. Safety means that since the day that he arrives, he can just arrange his paperwork and go on with the Egyptian law and taking advices and invest his money, and he know that everything is okay. Whenever it goes, whenever it takes, there is another government, there is someone who will protect him or her. So that is very important. If I get back to the roads, a lot of people in Egypt talk about a lot of money. It costs a hell of money to build roads, and we have to pay a lot of money for the food, and it's getting expensive. Well, I said, without roads, you cannot reach your point in a short time. Without roads, you cannot build factories. Without roads, you cannot build schools or new city like the new Cairo, which is going to be open in 2 years or 1 year from now. So I see it very positive, and I would like also to say the outside world that Egypt is in development, which has never been done since a very long time. So we have to try to arrange another thing which we are looking for since a very long time. It is not only the projects what the president has been open, but also the infrastructure and also the government paperwork and also our government employee. This is very important. We have to give a kick, speed for those people that they can do their work well and quick for the Egyptian and also for the foreigner. And that is also a part of the economy.
I guess there was a meeting by President Sisi with the cabinet, the finance minister, the minister of trade and industry and others, in which he gave his directions for all the ministries to facilitate all the procedures for investors, all the hurdles that can really hinder their going with or their own projects in Egypt, facilitate all the stumbles that really hinder the progress of investors. So one of the issues that he gave his directions or directives in order to carry on with was facilitating the issuance of licenses, the papers, and all these. So I guess we're on track, right?
Of course we are on track, but this is an old-fashioned way. We have to centralize all the organization in one building, and not to send the investor from Garden City to New Cairo or Garden City to Zamalek. No, we have to facilitate all these organizations in one building, like, just give an example, for a very small country like Dubai. When you go there, if you'd like to open a company, it takes you only 2 days or 3 days, and you have opened your company and you finish.
The one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. We have a lot of government employees, which they don't have enough space for them to sit and work. And I will suggest as a solution for growing the economy that the government employee work in a split shift in 2 times a day. This will have a lot of benefits for the Egyptian people because they work only, I think they have make statistics, and they said that the governor work about 38 minutes in 8 hours. Real work is 38 minutes, and the rest is just gossip and talking and walking around. So I would suggest for the 6.5 million employee that they could have worked 2 shifts. One can start at 8 in the morning and finish at 1, and the other shift can start at 3 and finish at 8.
Yes, these are the bureaucratic measures that the investor go through, issuance of papers and all this
which
stuff.
make it very, very difficult and unpleasant. So if we are really looking forward to attract the investors, we have to work on ourselves to change the bureaucratic system in a modern system, which we can do. I mean, it's not difficult. We can do it. We have a lot of experts. We have a lot of good people in Egypt, and we have a lot of academic people, and they can help to improve the system of the paperwork of the investors. But we are on track, and our economy is growing. And since the devaluation of the pound, there is something has happened which maybe you didn't recognize.
Yes. Now we're going to another issue, which is the government measures that have been taken, or the plan that has been made by the government in order to put the economy on track. And this has required several measures, including the liberalization of the Egyptian pound. So now we're speaking about the liberalization of the Egyptian pound and its reflection on the investments, right? Mm-hmm. Please go ahead.
Okay, the devaluation of the Egyptian pound was a good decision.
Liberalization. We just left it free.
Okay, good. It's they call it devaluation. It's liberalization. It is the same word. We become one of the countries getting to the international monetary banking. That means that Egypt is now on the track international with other countries for the currency. The life get a little bit expensive because of the devaluation, but I would like to say one word to all Egyptians and also to all foreigners. The dollar rate will not be as high as now. The dollar rate must decrease.
According to what?
According to the pound and according to our economy. Our economy in the moment is not really very strong, but we are on the track to build. So the central bank has built the currency collection in the moment. So I think in about 4 months or 5 months, the dollar rate will be lower than now. And this will make life a little bit easier than in the moment. Maybe a lot of people did not recognize that the import is decreased because we import about 70% of our food from abroad. And since the devaluation of the pound, the import just decreased. We did not import as much as we imported before. I think we decreased the import to, instead of 70%, to 60%. So we have saved 20% of the import of the food from abroad. And this must be decreased until, if we can get to 45, that will be fine.
Right. And we delve into another discussion, which is the law of investment. The law of investment was one of the issues that has been very much required in order to really put rules and regulations and also some of the facilities, but through law, in order to put our economy on track, attract more investors, and so on. So we have with us over the phone to shed light on the issue, Mr. Sameh Turguman, former chairman of the Egyptian stock markets. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year for you and your viewers.
Thank you very much, sir. If we are speaking about the investment law, and we know that the investment law has been amended and sent another time for the Parliament for ratification. The investment law, and how do you view the amendments that have been put in order to really make it more attractive for investors?
Well, there is a very important issue that you need to consider when you are talking about the investment law. This is not the first investment law that we have issued. We have been issuing investment laws since those since I think 1978 when we started this process. It's good to have the amendment of the law that makes things much better and from a legal point of view. But I think it's only part of the equation, and it's only one block of the whole picture that we need to consider. Laws is good, but it is not everything.
Yes. So, yes, definitely. Laws are good to regulate the process, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
Beside laws, or what do we really need in order to be able to really attract investors to Egypt? Some spoke about giving more facilities or making a kind of package of facilities and incentives given to the investors, including, for an instant, a tax-free zone. Some others recommended other incentives like giving lands in a way less less strictly than it is right now. How do you view this?
Well, there are three main pillars that you need to think about. And within each pillar, there are a lot to discuss, but in brief, the first one is the regulatory, first one is strategy. You have to have a clear strategy and where the economy and what do you want from the economy. And according to this strategy, you start building policies. I will give you a good example is the devaluation that you have been think that you were speaking about it just before I entered. Devaluation of the Egyptian pound was necessary in order to make the currency and to make prices and on a real basis. However, if you do this only and you stop other reforms, this would be an issue. So what you need to do is to have a clear vision where you want to go and you adopt the policies according to it. This is number one. This is the pillar of policies and strategies. Second, you have institutions that are implementing the law. Without reforming these institutions and making sure that they understand what the role in helping, in attracting investors and facilitating the business and making the economy grow, then you have an issue. Even if you have the best law, but you don't have the proper institution, then you have a serious problem in the execution. The third pillar is that you need to have what we call that stability in what you are implementing. That means that people needs to have clear picture that what you are implementing and what policies that you are adopting, you will stick to it. And if you want to change it, you need to change it in a process that everyone understands. So you cannot go and give a policy to the market that you would be adopting, and then suddenly you decided to go to another direction. This is, the markets do not like uncertainty.
So we speak about certainty of our position, or rather stability of our rules.
Yeah, whatever you will implement, the market will adapt to what you are doing. But those three pillars that I'm talking, strategy and policies, execution through the regulatory bodies and the institutions that oversight the market, and the stability in whatever you're doing. Without these three together, working together, then whatever law, whatever you decide to do is very nice, but you will not be able to gain from what you want as economic reform or attracting more investment.
Right. So this is Sabah Turgaman, former chairman of the Egyptian stock market. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Abbas. And we were speaking with Mr. Turgaman here about the investment law, but also about the pillars in order to be able really to attract more the foreign direct investments. As a businessman, from your point of view, what could really be an incentive package for investors or to attract more investors to Egypt?
First of all, you talk about package. First of all, I have to make a documentation which is internationally given to each country that investment can look at it, that they can feel that the business will be protected from the government. And if the investors will have this feeling, will be coming with pleasure to invest his money in Egypt. Because Egypt is one of the wonderful countries in the world. We have a lot of resources which we did not use it until today because we don't have the experience, we don't have the expert, and if we could get this from abroad, as
the know-how for many...
The know-how as investors, I think our country will be beneficially. We can collect a lot of money, as well we can create a lot of job. But the most important thing is that investor can feel safe, can feel that his money is safe in the country where he's going to deposit it or to invest it. That's the first thing. The second is we have to make everything possible for the investors from the day that he arrives, that he can get the feeling that the country is not complicated, that the system is not complicated, that he's going through everything smoothly and everybody is welcome him and that everything will arrange for him because he's coming with his money. That's what you can do for it.
Yes. The investment law and the investment law was a debate, a big debate, a huge debate for investors because the investment law or the previous one before that had many articles that were not really very much of attract to the investors. Now that it has been amended and several articles were really have taken into consideration, for instance, the one-stop shop that you were speaking about, plus other facilities that have to be taken. From your point of view, how important is it to stabilize or to put in action a law and keep it stable as it is, the stability of laws and regulations on the ground, and how important is that for the markets?
I have no doubt that any law has been coming from the government or from the ministry or from the parliament is difficult. I think that the law, that a lot of people has share opinion and do the best to make it as clear as possible for each one. But the problem, the practical people who use the law, how they use it and how they work with it. This is what we have to look at it. You compared about a law since the doctor said 1938 and the law which is coming
78 actually.
78
yes.
And the laws, excuse me, and the law is coming just in 2017 or 2016. So it's a very long time. Each law has a strong point and a weak point. But the people who use the law to help the investors, there is a clue. There where we have to work on it. There we have to watch, and there we have to learn, and there we have to give a good instructions, and also to give the investors the tools that we have created this for you to make it as possible. If someone else did something wrong or did it in his way as it not written, please inform us or let someone else do it for you. Investors come from abroad. They speak English, they speak French, they speak Italian or Spanish of any language. The Egyptian language, the Egyptian people, they speak English, but not all of them understand the language as the investor said. We have to make a group for those people. When investors come to Egypt, they just welcome them and take them along until they finish everything for them. And then they said, okay, here's your project, go ahead. But first, the paperwork. And this will make the investors comfortable, and he can ask other investors to come to Egypt as well, because they send only one. It's also a network, investors. I have lived in Europe for 40 years, so I know how investors work. So it's not only that one investor is independent. Other people got money, so they have organization in all the countries. One of them goes to Egypt, and one of them goes to Poland, and one goes to Dubai, and one goes over there. And they just check which countries is very attractive for the money to make more money, and therefore they can ask each other, okay, come, I have another project for you, you just have to invest. There you have to look at it, and that's very important. So it goes from one to other. There's not only one. So if we succeed to welcome the investors in the way that they like to be treated, I think this is the first step, what we have to use, that we can get more and more and more.
Yes.
We can talk till tomorrow about this point, because I have a lot to say, but our program, of your program, is short, so I have to make my word short to give opportunity to ask another question or to go on another discussion.
Yes, actually, my time is out. But the program is not has not ended yet. We'll have to make a recap to economic news that took place during this week. But however, if we can get out of this program, we have to say, or this particular episode, we have to say that the year 2016 has seen lots and lots of inauguration in several sectors. There have been some of the measures taken already by the government in order to put the economy on track. We need to make a kind of incentive, more incentive, or make it more attractive for investors to come, as respectively you've been making some of recommendations. Yes.
Okay, I just would like to add one thing about the investors. We have a lot of investors internal in Egyptian, and they try to work it out with the money to start a company or to start a project. I will suggest that those people also need help to get out of the bureaucratic way of starting the business. I hope that the package will not only for the abroad, the investment abroad, but also for the Egyptian themselves, that they can start the company of them project smoothly and easily, that they can be productive and they can make more money and create a lot of job.
Yes. Mr. Abbas Zoghiri, economic expert, thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Now we'll leave you to a recap of the economic news and the Egyptian stock market with our colleague Nermina Abdurrahman report. Many thanks for watching and good
Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Sahar Nasser, said that Egyptian government runs negotiations with the International Monetary Fund to secure the third tranche of the loan, with total value stands at $3 billion. Earlier this week, the IMF Executive Board approved the disbursed the loan's second tranche that amount to $1 billion. Last November, IMF approved a 3-year, $12 billion loan for Egypt to help the country out of its deep economic crisis. The Egyptian exchange EGX closed on positive note at the benchmark index EGX 30 added 1.09% or 134.056 points. The benchmark targets the level of 14,000 and which is expected also to reach by the end of the first quarter of 2017 amid strong daily turnovers that may exceed 3 Egyptian pounds. The market capitalization gained 4.5 billion Egyptian pounds, reaching 602.85 billion amid strong buying activity by foreign investors. The market witnessed 350.8 million shares changed hands worth 1.16 billion Egyptian pounds carried out through 29,300 transactions. Minister of Oil, Engineer Tariq Al-Mulla, said that Egypt will achieve self-sufficiency in natural gas by the end of 2018. Al-Mulla added in his statement that the government was planning to achieve self-sufficiency by 2020-2021, but accelerating development plans would help achieve this target sooner. The Ministry of Oil is targeting an increase in natural gas production by 1 billion cubic feet before the end of 2017 as Zohr gas field will begin operating, besides 4.4 billion cubic feet that are currently being pumped into the national gas grid. Egypt's domestic liquidity and counterpart assets rose 39% year-on-year by the end of November. Egypt's banking liquidity was bolstered by the central bank's decision to free the local currency as well as issuing high-yield savings certificates. On a monthly basis, liquidity rose by 406.6 billion Egyptian pounds to 2.6 trillion from 2.19 trillion a month earlier. Foreign current deposits doubled to 652.6 billion by the end of November from 326.8 billion in October, while local deposits increased 6.4% to 1.33 during the same period from 1.25 trillion registered in October. Egyptian exports to the United Arab Emirates rose 224% year-on-year to $2.2 billion in 2016. Further imports to Egypt registered $834 million during the same period. The intra-trade between the two countries crossed $3 billion over the past year. Earlier, Dubai Costumes announced that non-oil trading activities between Egypt and the UAE hit 952 AED billions in the first 9 months of 2016. The Jordanian government's Committee of Pricing Oil Derivatives announced that it will be raising prices by about 7% for January due to a hike in global oil prices. A liter of 90-octane gasoline will be sold at 0.62, 4 piastres up from the current price, while the new price of 95-octane gasoline will be 0.81 per liter, and diesel and kerosene will be sold at 0.465 per liter. The price of Oman oil futures for February delivery declined by 41 cents. Omani crude registered $52.24 per barrel compared to 54.65. It's worth noting that Oman's oil futures for January delivery declined by $4.64 per barrel and reached $44.54 per barrel compared to the prices of December. The indices of Borsa of Kuwait ended in the green zone. The price index rose by 0.47% or 27.26 points to close at 5,775.35 points. And both the weighted and Kuwaiti 15 indices gained 0.06% and 0.08% respectively. The financial services segment topped 8 gainers with 0.78% on the back of Markaz, which rose by 5.7%. Borsa Kuwait's trading value shrank to 9.05 million as trading volume decreased to 102.26 million shares. Wall Street held on to gains after minutes from the Fed's December meeting showed policymakers were concerned that quicker economic growth under President-elect Donald Trump could require faster interest rate increases. U.S. stocks have surged over the past 2 months on expectations that Trump will stimulate the economy with tax cuts and infrastructure spending and eliminate regulations in the financial industry. But investors also worry that stimulating the economy could stir inflation and push the U.S. Federal Reserve to raise interest rates more aggressively than anticipated. Sales of new cars and trucks in the United States likely set new records for December, and the full year automakers said and investors bid up shares in the sector as strong consumer confidence and stable fuel prices bolstered the industry's outlook. Demand for pickup trucks and SUVs stayed strong in December despite recent rises in gasoline prices. Gold touched a near 4-week high as the dollar edged back from a 14-year peak and physical demand from major consumers China and India increased. Spot gold climbed to its highest since the 9th of December at $1,167.52 an ounce and was up 0.27% at $1,661.61. U.S. gold futures climbed $4.2 to $1,166.1 an ounce. News of a pickup in exports has fanned hopes the UK economy will finish the year on a strong note, confounding earlier fears that the Brexit vote would spark a sharp slowdown. Official figures showed the UK's trade deficit with the rest of the world narrowed more than expected in October as exports rose and imports fell. But statistics said there was little evidence that the weak pound, which makes UK goods cheaper overseas, was boosting exports.